Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lim. Namaskar. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Israel's decision to expand military operations in Gaza, deeply alarming, says the UN, as Netanyahu's security cabinet approves complete control of Gaza. PM Modi reaffirms India-Russia special and privileged strategic partnership in a phone call with Putin, invites him for annual summit. And India's cabinet approves 30,000 crore rupees compensation for oil marketing companies to cover domestic LPG sale losses. Also continues 12,000 crore rupees subsidies for household cooking gas. We begin with news from Gaza, and Israel's political security cabinet has approved a plan to take control of Gaza City early on Friday. The approval came hours after the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Israel intended to take military control of the entire Gaza Strip. Now, Netanyahu's office in a statement said that the IDF will prepare to take control of Gaza City while providing humanitarian aid to the civilian population outside the combat zones. The Security Cabinet, by majority vote, adopted 5 principles for conducting the conflict. These principles include disarming of Hamas, the return of all hostages, living and dead, the demilitarization of the Gaza Strip, Israeli security control in the Gaza Strip, and the establishment of an alternative civil administration that is neither Hamas nor the Palestinian Authority. In response to Israel's decision, the United Nations has decided, in fact, they have said, that any decision to expand Israel's military operations in Gaza is deeply alarming. The spokesperson for the United Nations in Geneva has said that the UN stands firmly against any escalation of this conflict.
Any decision to expand Israel's military operations in Gaza are deeply alarming. And obviously, it is clear that this would risk catastrophic consequences for millions of Palestinians and could further endanger the lives of the remaining hostages in Gaza. It has to be really clear. We really stand firmly on any escalation of the conflict.
The UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer on Friday termed the Israeli decision to take control of Gaza City as wrong. Additionally, Starmer urged the Israeli government to reconsider its decision to further escalate its offensive in Gaza. In a statement, the UK Prime Minister said that this action will do nothing to bring an end to the conflict or to help secure the release of the hostages and to bring more bloodshed. The German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said on Friday that his government will not approve any exports of military equipment that could be used in the Gaza Strip until further notice. Merz added that it was Israel's right to disarm Hamas and to seek the release of the Israeli hostages. And we did mention this, that the Israeli Chancellor, the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, he has announced a halt of exports of military equipment that could be used in Gaza. This move signals a sharp shift in Berlin's stance toward its longtime ally, Israel. Citing the human suffering in Gaza, Merz stressed that while Israel has the right to disarm Hamas and secure the release of its hostages, its planned military expansion makes it harder to see how those goals can be achieved. The deadline of the U.S. President Donald Trump's ultimatum to Russia expires on Friday. Uncertainty looms over a possible Putin-Trump summit next week. Trump has threatened new sanctions against Russia and countries that buy its exports unless the Russian President Putin agrees to end the 3-year conflict with Ukraine. Ukraine and European leaders, they've insisted that any peace deal, it must include Europe and must protect Kiev's interests. Meanwhile, Putin on Friday, he chaired a meeting with members of his Security Council on regional and security issues. So what happened in this meeting is that it took place amid news of a meeting between Putin and the US President Donald Trump, which is supposed to happen next week. Now, the leaders are expected to discuss the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict. The much-awaited Armenia-Azerbaijan peace treaty is set to take place in the White House on Friday, as the leaders of both these countries, the Azerbaijan President Ilham Aliyev and the Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan, they are going to join President Trump at the White House for talks and also the signing ceremony. The truce deal may have many positive impacts, including the development of the exclusive U.S. development rights to a strategic transit corridor through the South Caucasus. Both countries have been at crossroads since late 1990s after the Nagorno-Karabakh split from Azerbaijan, resulting in long-term ethnic and border clashes. The U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance will begin his visit to the United Kingdom. This visit starts Friday, and he's going to have talks with the British Foreign Secretary David Lammy. Now, Vance is accompanied by his wife Usha and their 3 children, and they're going to be staying with Lammy at what's seen as the Foreign Minister's country residence, Chevening. And this trip comes amid heightened transatlantic tensions, shifting political landscapes in both nations, as well as growing scrutiny of Vance's foreign policy stance as he cements his role in Donald Trump's administration. And now news from Europe, where a new problem could be brewing silently in the background. Germans are leaving Germany in large numbers. Last year, in fact, the number was particularly high. 200,000 people left. They are citizens as well. What's driving them away? Where are they going? What are they choosing to do? All these questions. Let's talk to DW correspondent Varda Imran. She's joining us from Berlin. Varda, is this a cause of concern for Germany?
Thanks for having me. Absolutely, this is a cause for concern in this country, which is already facing a demographic challenge. Its current workforce is going to be retiring soon. And while Berlin is consistently looking to attract more skilled workers to the country, there's no denying that there's a strong outflow of people leaving as well. 270,000 German citizens left this country in 2024. That's what official government numbers show. And this number is almost double the amount of Germans recorded leaving 15 years ago. So this trend is definitely disturbing. And other studies show that it's not necessarily old people that are making the move, let's say out of retirement. It's likely that majority of the emigrants are between the ages of 25 and 50 years old. So basically that prime age that every country needs.
And also, Varda, what are the reasons for their leaving?
Well, we have the usual suspects, high taxation, relentless bureaucracy, politics, rise of the far right, administrative hurdles. I mean, it's come to a point where people who want to even set up their own businesses in Germany, let's say, are giving up after spending years trying to figure out the red tape and instead just move to a different continent and set it up there. There are estimates that show that from January to April this year alone, over 90,000 German citizens moved out permanently. People are looking for financial security, and with a high tax rate such as Germany, they're not able to save anything. Lifestyle also contributes to this, where many are complaining about living alone, being isolated, and finding new cultures around the world more enticing. It seems the cold weather and the cold attitude that Germans bear sometimes is doing some damage.
Interesting, but how can the government make the country attractive once again?
Well, I think that's by making things more affordable, more attractive. Berlin, as a capital city, is becoming more and more expensive each day to live. Traditionally, Berlin is known as one of the cheapest European capitals. This is not the case anymore. Rents are climbing high, inflation is biting low-income groups, and a new study found that only 1 in every 4 apartments here is affordable for a person earning an average income. we also are seeing social benefits being cut by the government, and this makes the country less attractive. You know, in Berlin, free museum tickets on Sunday has been such a, it's been such a big tradition here, and now it's been cancelled by this government. And other benefits like subsidized tickets, transport tickets, may be getting the axe soon. All this makes it hard on a social level to survive in Germany. So I think the country will have to prioritize citizens, prioritize jobs. There are still many unemployed people all over Germany that are looking for opportunities. But it seems the government's current agenda is thinking of defense, exports, tariffs, cars. But their most important asset, people, might slip away.
PM Modi held a very good and detailed conversation with President Putin. And during the phone call, Prime Minister Modi thanked President Putin for sharing the latest developments on Ukraine. Both leaders also reviewed the progress and bilateral agenda. They reaffirmed their commitment to further deepening the India-Russia Special and Privileged Strategic Partnership. Prime Minister Modi also looked forward to hosting President Putin in India later this year. And Jessica Taneja is joining us with more on this story. Well, Jessica, Putin also spoke to Xi Jinping today. So, this is, you can put that into context. Both these calls seem to be connected in some way.
Well, I can't say that with certainty, perhaps, but the call with the Prime Minister certainly seemed to have made few heads turn. But that was on expected lines. As you'd recall, there is an annual summit that takes place between the two countries. It was held last year in Moscow. I was present there. There was discussion. There was a bilateral trade. There were ways to sort of ensure bilateral trade is agreed between the two of them and to enhance it further. There were various agreements that were also signed and inked for the future in various sectors. And this perhaps is also timed in a sense where you saw the National Security Advisor, Ajit Doval, was also in the Kremlin. He met with the President Vladimir Putin just a few days ago. And the confirmation, perhaps the finalization of his visit is yet to be ascertain as to when exactly will he be here in New Delhi. But the timeline, what we can be assured is, of course, the end of this year, and as it usually does take place. So it's pretty routine for the Indian Prime Minister to meet his Russian counterpart, and which has been the case for many years now. Although there are geopolitical uncertainties that sort of dictate the current order, but we haven't been given to understand from at least the statement so far as to what was discussed. But the developments on Ukraine were apprised of, which is what the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi had put out in a statement that this did come up. And as Russia's occupation in Ukraine continues, and with the potential meeting with President Donald Trump next week, this is, of course, a different time in the world of global affairs.
Indeed, and if we put into context, the strategic autonomy that India has in terms of its purchases of oil, this too is important. And of course, Russia being, a major military partner with India, and also joint development of various projects. So this is a very close partnership. It's a special and strategic partnership that has now been reaffirmed through this phone call. Would we have any potential dates for the meeting?
For potential dates, of course, have not been given out yet, but the confirmation that this annual summit will take place by the end of this year in itself cements the relationship that India and Russia have had, be it in the military or the defense sector, or be it in other sectors such as oil, where India imports 38% of its energy needs from Russia. So certainly an important partner, and perhaps the reason why President Donald Trump has found that particular sticking point to negotiate tariffs with India, and India has been relentless on the stand, wherein it says it will continue to take oil from Russia because the Indian economy is engineered and powered with that energy inflow. And perhaps this relationship, as we've seen in the past as well, Mark, it's withstood quite a few challenges here and there. You saw the Prime Minister last year when he visited Moscow for the annual summit. He did go to Ukraine as well just a few weeks later. Yes. So India has had its strategic autonomy when it comes to engaging with nations, and his whole stand on the entire issue has also been reiterated the fact that this is not an era of war and solutions are not found on the battlefields, but at the same time the relationship continues to be steady, given how the kind of security challenges India faces on its border, both with Pakistan and China. And Russia certainly is an all-important partner, a special friend, as both call each other. And
Yes.
that relationship has remained not just with the current circumstances, but it has weathered all kinds of storms.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Jessica Taneja, for putting that into context for us. Our next story. President Xi Jinping also told his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin in a phone call on Friday that China was pleased to see Moscow and Washington improving their relations. The Chinese state broadcaster CCTV reported that Xi Jinping had talked to Putin on Friday at the Russian leader's request. Putin briefed Xi on the situation of the recent contact and also communications between the United States and Russia, as well as the situation in Ukraine. And this call came after the Kremlin said on Thursday that Putin would meet the US President Donald Trump in the coming days in the search for an end to the war, now in its fourth year. Now, Friday's call between Xi Jinping and Putin was their second in less than 2 months. And Putin and the US President Donald Trump, as we said, are set to hold talks in a bid to end the conflict in Ukraine. Still to come here on this edition of DD India Live, the 14th edition of the Indian Magazine Congress 2025 in New Delhi. And we tell you more about chess. The Chennai Grandmasters event is on. And from thrilling comebacks to history-making wins, the Canadian Open 2025 delivered drama and unforgettable tennis moments.
Extreme heat, unseasonal rains, floods, droughts. These aren't just isolated weather events anymore. So today, through all our stories, we ask, how do we adapt? And whatever we do, will it be enough as the weather becomes more extreme?
We managed to get the IMD, and what we can create a WhatsApp group. We can have these market leaders in this WhatsApp group, and we can send these, IMD can send these alerts, these weather alerts every day in this WhatsApp group.
We have concentrated mostly on disaster management framing to tackle the problems associated with heat.
It's necessary in this humid heat, and we know that the summers are getting more and more relentless. It's an interesting initiative.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Mark Lynn. The Information and Broadcasting Minister of India, Ashwini Vaishnav, briefed the media after the Union Cabinet meeting chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And the minister announced that the Cabinet has approved the continuation of the targeted subsidy for the Pradhanmantri Ujjwala Yojana consumers for 2025-26. The outlay is 12,000 crore rupees.
जब 2016 में माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने उज्ज्वला योजना लॉन्च की थी, तब भावना इसमें अंत्योदय की भावना थी। जो गरीब से गरीब व्यक्ति उनके जीवन में बड़ा परिवर्तन आए और बहनों माओं के जीवन में एक ग्रामीण क्षेत्रों में बहुत बड़ा परिवर्तन आए। यानी 10 करोड़ 33 लाख घरों में उज्ज्वला के कारण परिवर्तन आया। करीब 2200 रुपए की टोटल सपोर्ट मिलता है इस स्कीम में। तो आज कैबिनेट में फैसला लिया गया 12,060 करोड़ रुपए का सपोर्ट पीएम उज्ज्वला बेनिफिशियरीज के लिए 2025-26 फाइनेंशियल ईयर में दिया जाएगा। अब तक अगर हम देखें टोटल उज्ज्वला योजना में 52,000 करोड़ रुपए का बेनिफिट देश में लाखों करोड़ों परिवारों को मिल चुका है।
The Union Minister also said that the Cabinet had approved the substantial rupees 30,000 crore subsidy for the public sector oil marketing companies. This is to cover domestic LPG sale losses.
परिवारों में एलपीजी गैस अफोर्डेबल रहे, कम से कम दाम पे मिले, उसके लिए 30,000 करोड़ रुपए की सब्सिडी आज अप्रूव हुई है, जो सीधा हमारे एलपीजी, हमारे मध्यम वर्गीय परिवारों के बेनिफिट में जाएगी।
Further, the Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav, he said that the Cabinet had approved the budgetary support for multidisciplinary education and research improvement in technical education, merit scheme or My Right scheme, and this is with an outlay of 4,200 crore rupees.
कि राज्य सरकारों के जो टेक्निकल एजुकेशन के इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं उनको सपोर्ट करना, उसमें ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन लाना, उसके लिए 4,200 करोड़ रुपए का एक प्रोग्राम सैंक्शन हुआ है। जो राज्य सरकारों के टेक्निकल इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं उनमें गुणवत्ता कैसे आए, क्वालिटी कैसे आए, कैसे इंप्रूवमेंट आए, तो 175 इंजीनियरिंग इंस्टीट्यूशंस एंड 100 पॉलिटेक्निक्स देश भर में, जिसमें करीब 7.5 लाख स्टूडेंट्स एंड 13,000 फैकल्टी मेंबर्स को बेनिफिट मिलेगा, उसके लिए ये प्रोग्राम बनाया है।
Proceedings of both houses of parliament today were disturbed by the opposition parties, that is, over a protest. They were protesting about the issue of the special intensive revision exercise in Bihar, leading to an adjournment of the House for the day. The Lok Sabha faced two adjournments. It had convened at 11 a.m. and reconvened again at 3 p.m. But it was adjourned within 5 minutes because of the continuous uproar from the opposition benches. Now, in the upper house, it was adjourned till 11 a.m. on Monday. And because Parliament is going to reconvene next week, attention now will turn to whether the opposition and the government can actually find common ground to restore order and to resume legislative business. The 14th edition of the Indian Magazine Congress 2025 was held in New Delhi on Friday. It was hosted by the Association of Indian Magazines. And this event focuses on the theme, the deep connect, building communities, nurturing trust, reimagining the future. At the event, prominent leaders from India's magazine, media and advertising sectors discussed emerging trends and challenges in the publishing landscape. At the event as well, Gaurav Dwivedi, who's the CEO of Prasar Bharati, he launched a new magazine, e-store, on Waves OTT. Speaking on the relevance of Waves, the CEO of Prasar Bharati said that it is the responsibility of Prasar Bharati to provide free information and education to the general public.
That if we are having this OTT, which is going to bring in music and video content to the audiences, then why should we keep the written word out of it? The first thing that we did there was that whatever material was available within our own ministry, the INB ministry, the magazines, Yojana, Kurukshetra, Bal Bharati, we brought all of these, in fact, the oldest versions, dating back 30, 40 years, the entire archives are now on Wave OTT. And immediately after that, then he called me up and we said, okay, now let's tie up hands with the private publishers also and invite them. And here we are today with 50 different titles across 8 different languages are launched here today. And we look forward to having more and more of the industry ecosystem coming and joining hands with us, reaching out to the audiences across India and outside.
The classical tournament at the Chennai Grandmasters has kicked off with strong performances from Arjun Erigaisi of India and the German Grandmaster Vincent Kmar. Erigaisi delivered a commanding victory over the American Grandmaster Ewanda Liang, and Kmar showcased impeccable technique to overcome India's Nihal Sareen. One of the tournament's highlights was the highly anticipated all-Chennai clash between the Grandmasters Pranav and Karthikeyan Murli. It concluded in a well-fought draw. From thrilling comebacks to history-making wins, the Canadian Open 2025 delivered drama and unforgettable tennis moments. America's Ben Shelton won the biggest title of his career, and the teenager Victoria Mboko delivered the best performance of her life. Julian Cash and Lloyd Glasspool scripted doubles history, and the American stars Coco Gauff and McCartney Kessler triumphed in the women's doubles. Here's the report.
Power, resilience and history. The Canadian Open saw champions rise under pressure and deliver career-defining performances. Here's a look at the champions who made their mark this year. Men's singles. American Ben Shelton powered to the biggest title of his career, rallying past Russian Karen Khachanov 6-7, 6-4, 7-6 to win the ATP Masters. The 22-year-old, ranked 7th in the world, unleashed 16 aces in a high-octane final to claim his maiden Masters 1000 crown. Shelton's victory marks a major breakthrough, cementing his place among the game's top contenders. Women's singles. Victoria Mboko overcame a wrist injury and a slow start to stun four-time Grand Slam winner Naomi Osaka 2-6, 6-4, 6-1 in the women's singles final. Mboko joins Bianca Andreescu and Faye Urban as the only Canadians to win the hometown tournament in the Open era and becomes the first to do so in Montreal. Men's doubles. Julian Cash and Lloyd Glasspool saved 4 match points before edging Salisbury and Skupski. The all-British pairing made history as the first from their nation to lift an ATP Masters 1000 title. Women's doubles. The women's doubles crown went to Coco Gauff and McCartney Kessler, who fought past Townsend and Zhang despite the loss. Townsend retains her WTA #1 doubles ranking, with Yelena Ostapenko exiting in the quarterfinals. The champions now turn their focus on the US Open, carrying momentum. With emotions running high and title changing hands, the Canadian Open has once again delivered world-class tennis and unforgettable moments. Sports Desk, DD India.
And that's all we have in this edition of DD India Live. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, get the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. It's available on Android and iOS. Scan the QR code and download it now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Mark Lynn from all of us here in Delhi. Thank you very much for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.